Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022 meeting of the Long Meadow School Committee. School committees and other public bodies may continue to hold remote meetings through March 31st, 2023, under legislation enacted in July of 2022. The statute, Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, extends quorum reductions for remote meetings. All votes while there is remote participation will be made by roll call vote, and the meeting is being recorded and aired live on LCTV. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we will begin with correspondence. Turn it over to Kevin.
Thank you very much. We'd like to note an email from Ms. Kayla Werlin, Music Department Chair at Long Meadow High School, dated November 17th, 2022, announcing the students who are accepted into the 2023 District Music Festival in January of 2023.
Thank you. All right, moving forward to approval of minutes, we have a recommended motion.
I move that the school committee approve the minutes to the November 8th, 2022 school committee meeting as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward. Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
We don't have anyone at home, correct? No? All right, and yes for me. All right, moving forward to visitor comments. If there are any visitors who would like to make a comment, whether at home or here in the room, now is an excellent time. If you are at home and would like to make a comment, you can turn your camera on and let us know, or you can use the raise hand function on your Zoom app. All right, seeing none, we will move on to school committee announcements and recognitions. Does anyone have any announcements or recognitions they would like to make? Go ahead, Jen.
You know I'm good for it, Nicole.
I know, I love it.
Thanks, Nicole. Sorry I was a little bit late. The reason that I was a little bit late is my reason for school committee announcements and recognitions.
Perfect.
My son is home from the United States Coast Guard Academy, and so I was loving on him, but I just wanted to say welcome home to all of the other students, alumni who are coming back either from careers or far or travel or being in college, and just saying I hope you have a wonderful time with your families.
Wonderful, thank you. Any others? Kevin?
Just a huge shout out to the field hockey team. Incredible way to end Coach's career, and just, yeah, super happy for all of them. They've been there many, many times, and they won it this year. So just, yeah, great congratulations, coaching staff, the team. Just a great accomplishment.
Wonderful,
First one.
thank you.
Yeah.
Nice. Very good. All right, any further announcements or recognitions? Okay, moving forward to business with guests. We have some visitors from the elementary schools. Welcome all. And we'll invite you to come on forward and join. Would you like to introduce what they're doing
We'll
here
turn it
today?
over to Mrs.
Okay.
Bertrand, if that's okay.
Perfect.
These are our brand new math coaches, Chelsea Berry, who you've seen before, and Rebecca Powell as well. Rebecca was
No.
a Wolf Swamp teacher for a long time, and Chelsea was at Blueberry for a long time. The two of them are taking on K-5 throughout the district, and Chelsea does 3, 4, 5, and Rebecca's working with K-1-2 teachers, and sometimes they overlap. And they've been super busy since prior to the first day of school. But they're here to tell you a little bit about how their math coaching is going and how the math program is proceeding and all good stuff. So, did I miss anything?
Took our first
Great.
Oh, sorry. Well,
And if you give me a moment, I'll pull up your slide deck, and we'll be ready to go. Let's see.
We'll watch that instead.
Indeed.
we got notification that we got not approved, but that they received it. Here's the open.
also have to do the screen share. Give me one more second, sorry.
I don't envy you right now.
Yeah.
All eyes.
Scary
Very
thought
high
when
pressure.
I'm the tech director. All right. There we go. All right.
Success.
All right, so thanks again for having us. I'm Chelsea, and I've met many of you before when we were here in the springtime. And this is my 10th year with the district, and I've been at Blueberry with the intervention math specialist role, and so it's been really awesome to jump into that full coaching. We've been very busy for sure. And you want to
Give a little intro?
Yeah,
Sure.
recap.
I'm Rebecca Powell, and I've been teaching for many years. The last 18 of them have been at Wolf Swamp as a first grade classroom teacher. So this is a new role for me, and I'm loving the change, and it's been very exciting. So we're happy to be here tonight to let you know how it's going.
Just as a quick little review, we started our work last year with a committee of educators, a really large, like over 30-person committee, and actually 30-person piloting group. And we started kind of sharing our own hopes and visions for math education in Longmeadow. And as we worked forward, it kind of looked like everything was coming together. The NCTM effective teaching practices in math, our math practice standards from DESE and the state, all of that came together, and it also nicely was packaged up and kind of really supports our vision of the graduate here. So just a kind of brief look, if we go forward a smidge. We're in our adoption, our year one of Bridges, and if we think about our effective teaching practices, we're looking for teachers to really encourage their students to reason and problem solve and question things and gain fluency, but work towards fluency with a really strong conceptual backing. So, next slide. I'm going to keep you busy. And when we look at the math practice standards, which are in combination with kind of our content standards, where like third graders need to learn about multiplication and fifth graders need to learn about volume, we also need to have all of our students K through 12, actually pre-K through 12, developing these habits of mind and this ability to use mathematical tools and to explain their reasoning and argue effectively. Look for structure and generalize and come up with rules instead of being fed them, and just really make meaning with math. And so, with all of those things together, we really are supporting this overall vision of our Longmeadow graduate. We're becoming independent learners at the same time that we're actually encouraging collaboration. Tons of critical thinking everywhere, and communication is at the core of our work with Bridges in mathematics, whether we're talking or writing, and just so much collaboration. So our vision for elementary math, kind of from that group work that we started last year, we're looking for our instruction to be student-centered. We want the kids at the center of every lesson. We want their thinking coming out. We want them to be talking. We want them to be working together and engaging together, and really kind of working through and reasoning and problem solving and embracing those inquiry-based lessons. So that's what we're looking for. That's what we were looking for. And as we engage in our first year in Bridges, we're definitely finding all of that, but we're kind of finding it at a deeper level. We only had a couple of units to kind of look at it and make this big decision. And of course, it was based off of lots of research and lots of time and lots of voices, but there's still lots for us to learn this year for sure. One of those things that's kind of so lovely about Bridges is this idea of meaningful distributed learning. And this guy named Jerome Bruner came up with this idea of spreading learning over a larger amount of time. And so typically we usually have like one unit for learning one specific thing, whether it be area or one unit on subtraction or something like that. And now you'll notice, if you have any students currently engaging in Bridges, is their learning is spread over the course of the year. There's a little bit sprinkled in during their number corner exercises. There's some review and some application during their main Bridges lesson during the day, but there's also kind of pieces of it scattered throughout the unit. So even though there might be one big unit on subtraction, don't worry, there's a little bit before it and a little bit after it to kind of still keep developing that learning. I think as an interventionist, this idea of spreading learning over longer periods of time is just mind-blowing to me, because there's so many kids that I was like, if they just had a little more time, if they could just move a little slower through this process and like grow with it and, I don't know, just develop and have that chance to kind of play with it and think about it for a little longer, that, you know, makes you wonder, would they still be in my intervention group or not? So I'm really excited about that on its own. Here's an actual view of kind of not only the learning, but the assessment is spread out for, this is a specific standard for 4th grade, solving multi-step word problems. So if you know anything about multi-step word problems, it's like the bane of everybody's existence. They're hard. And typically there usually was like 2 lessons or, you know, not a lot on multi-step word problems. And if you didn't get it, it kind of stunk. But now we have a look at the whole year, September through May, and we have opportunities. This is just the assessment, kind of look at the assessment, but if we even just look at where we're assessing students, Unit 1, we're going to assess multi-step word problems. Unit 2, we're back assessing those multi-step word problems. There's a point in the October number corner check-in, which is a separate kind of little assessment. We're going to check it there too, and then again in January. And if that wasn't enough for you, we're going to check it in Unit 6 in the March number corner, and then again in Unit 7. And so we can really keep an eye on each student's development of that specific skill, but of course other ones as well over the course of the entire year. Fluency is also something that has been kind of a, all right, here's multiplication, now memorize them. Or we get we're starting to understand how to add, but we don't really have all the time built into the day. So let's try to practice them at home. It kind of just feels a little bit like we just need more time, in kind of a strategic way of developing that fluency. And we're finding that within our Bridges lessons, students are actually looking at patterns, analyzing them, coming up with their own strategies to build that fluency that makes sense to them, instead of just, oh, here's the 9s trick, look, the numbers go, like the 10s go down and the 1s go up, or put your 9th finger down, or, you know, they're coming up with their own meaning, and it's going to last a little longer. Here's a quote from one of our grade 5 teachers. I do think Bridges has opened up their minds to new strategies, but it has been difficult in 5th to fill in the gaps from not having had this curriculum before. I do think we will have positive impact as the more years students are exposed to this curriculum. Grade 5 definitely has the hardest, and grade 4 too, but grade 5 has the hardest kind of job this year. The demand of the discourse, the models being used, those are all so foreign to our 5th graders, and there's this expectation in the curriculum that they come with it. And they don't, and they're kind of working through it, but definitely this year is challenging for them. But so for even a grade 5 teacher to see that there's any hope, that there's any kind of development and opening up of minds, I think is definitely a win for us today. Another one of the great parts of our Bridges work are the models. It's modeling with mathematics isn't just trying to draw things out or anything. It's really how to communicate the process that your brain went through and try to communicate with someone else so that they can understand a new strategy, or so that you can connect your strategies together, and really help support our higher order thinking. There's so many ways, to show or get to a certain answer. It's not just one way, but there's this emphasis on finding the best way for you right now, and also trying to develop and kind of get a student to move forward in their efficiency, and to embrace new strategies that won't take so much brain juice, I kind of say over and over. And another exciting part is that we're experiencing multiple contexts constantly. We're not just learning about addition just with addition and numbers on the paper. We're learning about addition with money and time and measurement. They're no longer getting the short end of the stick. They are at the center of our instruction. And so there's always a solid context. And right now you can see Rebecca helping measure a student, and that was in an addition lesson. So throughout, it kind of becomes this hands-on, real applied learning. So this is a grade 2 teacher. My students are receiving a broad range of math topics with Bridges. They seem more engaged, challenged, and excited to focus on math. Implementing Bridges requires a great deal of time. I feel like a math teacher this year. And as we had hoped, student discourse is at the center of all of the lessons. One of our grade 4 teachers described it pretty well. Students share and talk about math throughout Bridges lessons. They develop their thinking by sharing their strategies, explaining how they got an answer, and even when they ask questions to each other. Even in that picture, thanks. Even in that picture, we have some 4th grade students, and you'll see that they have their workbooks in front of them, but what's different is they also were supplied these 12-inch strips of paper, which they were also supplied some clocks that they could write on, and some kind of fake dollar bills to manipulate too, because there was a problem about fruit leather and it being a foot long and trying to share it, or 3 pieces of foot leather and trying to share it with 4 friends. And did I say foot leather?
Yeah,
I did. I knew that
Fruit
happened. Sorry, fruit leather, which is like fruit by the foot. Sorry. If that's the worst that happens, we're good. But it was just so cool because it was word problems, problem solving, but the kids were actively working on manipulating the numbers with tools. And then we had a math intervention teacher say that I have seen the impact that the classroom Bridges lessons has had on improving the number sense of my intervention students. Many of them have shown stronger mental math strategies and are making exciting new connections in their math knowledge. I feel like it's powerful for our interventionists to already start feeling that those students in her groups are growing. And a kindergarten teacher told us that my students are thinking about math, not just learning and doing. I love it. So we've made some significant investments and we should be pretty proud of it here. We've utilized the Expanding High Quality Instructional Materials Grant from DESE that helped provide for our Tier 1 instructional materials and the initial professional development. We're utilizing the ESSER 3 funding for our math coach salaries. We also were able to pull on some research to get some additional Bridges intervention kit training to our special educators and interventionists. And we have ongoing grade level, also the time investment as well, ongoing grade level unit planning monthly with half-day sessions and all 6 of our grades in all 3 of our schools. So we're pretty busy.
So I'll shift gears now and talk a little bit about how Chelsea and I are working as math coaches to support teachers in all of that good work, and to talk about how we are going to sustain this high-quality Bridges implementation, and what we know as educators with lots of experience, as well as lots of research on the subject of what makes high-quality professional learning, is that the way we roll out this program is going to be highly impacted by the professional learning piece. So we want to make sure that we have strong educator efficacy, high teacher morale, and obviously that translates into student learning. So we want to make sure that teachers are deepening their content knowledge. They're also working with high instructional strategies, high quality instructional strategies, but the research says that we want to put all those things in context of what the materials the teachers are actually using right now and what grade level they're at, so that that learning from today goes into practice tomorrow, and that it's ongoing throughout the year and for years to come. So the Math Learning Center, if I could stay there, Marty.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. The Math Learning Center is the company that publishes Bridges, and they have a lot of resources for us as coaches and the district in general to help us along this pathway of professional learning. And they have laid this out in a 4-stage plan. So I'd like to just quickly talk with you about where we are on this pathway and what we're doing along the way. So we're completed stage 1. So stage 1, we're getting ready to dive in, getting started with the materials. And if you can go to the next slide, please. These are some of the things that we have already done. Last June, most of the teachers had 2 full days of a workshop called Getting Started with the Bridges Facilitator. And then we had a smaller group, much smaller group of teachers that participated in summer work, where they were able to dive into the lessons and prepare some of the materials for their colleagues. In August, on our professional development day, Chelsea and I, as well as some math specialists, facilitated all the K-5 classroom teachers, as well as intervention support teachers and special educators, to sort of catch up people who hadn't been able to participate in the June workshop. So we had a lot of new teachers on board. So we sort of got them started, as well as looked ahead into Unit 1 and the September number corner. Chelsea and I participated in a workshop that was organized by Bridges called Preparing to Lead a Bridges Implementation. And then we also facilitated training for the Bridges Intervention Kit, which is used by our Tier 2 teachers doing Tier 2 instruction and sometimes Tier 3. So that was a 3-part process, which Chelsea and I facilitated a half day with all those teachers in Longmeadow. And then we all participated in a Zoom workshop with the Bridges facilitator. And then the 3rd session, Chelsea and I facilitated again to finish up the training. So along with that, these are just some other things that Chelsea and I have spent our time doing in the beginning. A lot of time setting up classrooms and materials preparation. There's a lot of space that's required for the number corner. So in our August early days, we were helping teachers figure that out. We did have some coaching experiences right away. The first week I was doing some model lessons with teachers, consulting with different teachers. People came in with different comfort levels. Teachers that had participated in the pilot last year were a lot more comfortable and a little bit ready to go. People who had the summer work under their belt were also feeling a little bit more comfortable. So it just kind of depended where teachers were, what they were looking for in September. We were organizing supplies, getting teachers their supplies, participating in meetings with principals and Sue and each other. And Chelsea particularly did quite a bit of work filling in some staffing gaps with classrooms that were not fully staffed. So Marty, if you keep going, thank you.
It was like always, it was all hands on deck for those supplies. If you came here at one point, everybody in the administrative office was helping.
Yes, they saw us doing that work too. So stage 2 is really where we are now in the 4-stage process. So it's called initial implementation, and we are in the water swimming along with our teachers to help them out. And this stage, we are really digging into the sessions and the units and the lessons. And you can keep going if you would, Marty. So these are some of the main things that we are doing now, and I want to talk about the unit planning meetings mostly because that is really kind of the core of the work we're doing. As Chelsea mentioned, every grade level team has a half a day to work with their coach, so either me or Chelsea, depending on the grade. We go to their school and we meet with them for the full half day, and we do that in advance of the new unit and the new month of number corner. So by the end of the year, it will be 7 or 8 half days that we're able to sit and really dive into the content of the unit, the models that the unit is going to be using, the strategies that we're looking for kids to be using, the pacing. Chelsea and I have the time in advance to dig deep, read it carefully, so that when we go into the meeting with our team, we can facilitate and get through this very dense package of the unit, which is very thick and very dense, and there's lots of materials and they're in different places, so it takes some time to find them, and it's been helpful to have that time to get organized and really get into the instruction. So we've also continued to do different coaching experiences. Sorry, I'm still in the last one.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Let's see, so one of the benefits, we are working at all 3 elementary schools, and one of the benefits of that is when we're at those, any team meeting or any meeting that we're with a teacher, we can share ideas across the 3 schools, which is really helpful. One of the challenges of working with 3 schools is that we both feel like we're spread pretty thin. I have 31 teachers in K through 5, Chelsea's caseload is similar, and we are also both supporting special ed and intervention teachers. And that's a group of about 25 teachers. So that's been one of the challenges that I wanted to mention. And thank you, Marty. We're going to go on to that one there. So kind of behind the scenes, we are able to have a lot of conversations with all the teachers that we work with, and then we're able to advocate for things that they're asking for, talk with the principal, share information, talk with Sue, talk with each other. And these are some of the big topics that is really fun work. We both love it. Getting deep into the curriculum, talking about assessment, different ways to collect all the data, which is a tremendous amount of work for teachers. Talking about the MTSS protocols, how is special education educators able to use the program at the Tier 2 and Tier 3 levels, and then the intervention team at the Tier 2 level. So there's always something fun to be thinking about and working on. And we are always continually gathering feedback from teachers to make sure that the half day with them is what they're looking for, and that we're meeting their needs. And their needs are different, just like a classroom of students has different needs. We kind of think of them as our classroom of teachers, and they all come to us with different strengths and things they want to work on. So this is one quote from our kindergarten teacher. "I love that we meet up to discuss what the next unit month will look like. It is extremely helpful being able to talk about it and discuss it with our coach and team. I truly feel as if I would be lost if we did not do this." So it's great to feel like the time is well spent. It's hard to be out of your classroom for half a day. It's a lot of work to be out of your classroom writing sub-plans, so we want to make it worth their time. And then finally, the next 3 stages, the final 3 stages, are deepening implementation and sustaining implementation. So we do have some of us are dipping our toe into stage 3 and talking about differentiation and obviously engagement. These are all topics that come up even now. But we want to make the point that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and rolling out a program with high quality is going to take time. And it should be work that we're thinking about for the next year and the next years. So our role as coaches has already evolved since we started in August, and all the startup tasks that we were working on in September have sort of faded away, and we're able to get more. We're starting now to be in classrooms even more often, starting shorter coaching cycles with teachers, and we see that our role will evolve as the work continues and teachers' needs are different. So we have appreciated your support of the coaching model up to now, and we look forward to having that support in the future. And that's about all we wanted to share with you. So thank you.
All right, wonderful. I'll open the floor for questions, comments, feedback, et cetera. All right, so that's first, and then Kevin.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know, you mentioned the unit planning meetings and how effective those have been. Those seem to be like they would be a really great opportunity. I'm curious to know if you plan or hope to be able to maintain that type of frequency into stages 3 and 4.
We hope. Do we plan? I'm not sure. We would love that. We would love to see that embedded PD be a model that we can sustain for sure. Whether it's focusing on math every time, maybe not, but it's a great model to continue. But it's a big ask, and not my decision to make.
Yeah, I just...
It's certainly what I would recommend.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree simply because, like, in year 1 of a new program, there's only so much that sticks, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
teachers would certainly benefit from years 2 and 3. On the teacher side of things, on the coach side of things, you have the benefit of meeting with, 10 to 12 fourth grade teachers, or 10 to 12. So, like, you also see the themes that are emerging
Yes.
from a year 1 that you could carry over into year 2 into stage 3 and stage
Yeah.
4. So I just see a lot of benefit if we're able to make that happen.
We can already see that, so thinking of what that will look like in 6 months or a year is pretty exciting.
Going back to that distributed learning idea too, not only is the learning distributed in the grade level, but there's little like hints of it in the grade before and follow up in the grade after, and it's starting to jump out now to us as I talk to 5th grade. I'm like, oh, 4th grade really needs to focus on this now. Like, definitely don't skimp on that area, or because right now we're a little bit in survival mode, but like, how can we really do this well and make sure that we're supporting that next grade? And that would be great to continue those conversations into that next level.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin?
Thank you so much for the presentation. This is great. As a math lover, like seeing more love of math, like, yes, that's awesome. So thank you for that. I guess just a couple of reflections, and then I have 2 questions. So I love seeing the focus on discourse and the kids talking to each other. Like, that's such a powerful model, and it's great to see that we're doing that. I also love the focus on multi-step word problems. So my college students struggle with multi-step word problems. So, like, yes, we need to continue to do that. I would love to hear you talk about, so 2 things. I'll give you one, and then we'll cut to the second one, which is, if you could talk to us about, like, how long you imagine the coaching positions will be important to have, right? Like, we have our budget discussions. We just started talking to select board yesterday about thinking about next year's budget. And I would love for you to give us your thoughts about, like, hey, these 2 positions are really important in the future because we're not going to be able to do these stage 3 and 4 if these positions don't happen next year. Just if you could look to the future of, like, these positions seem to be really useful and they will continue to be useful for X number of years. So how would you help advise us?
Is infinite
Yeah.
gonna work for you? No, honestly, I would love to see it be a permanent part of our budget in the
Okay.
way that literacy coaches are. Literacy coaches about 10 years ago were put into our model, and that started off with a similar kind of one coach sharing schools, and now it's evolved into every school has a full-time coach for literacy. So that would be my dream, that every school has their own coach and that it's a permanent, forever
Great.
position. What would you?
Well, you mentioned like let's look to the future, but if we look to the past, every initiative starts off strong, right? And then it starts to peter out, and people are working in isolation, and things change. And I think one of the biggest strengths is that we are able to kind of keep this alignment and the conversation district wide. And so I don't think that need will ever go away, even if we've gotten through this big hurdle of initially training all of our staff. We want to keep that going, as well as any new staff. And our teachers cannot wait to kind of get deeper into how do I do this even better? How do I meet the needs of my students in front of me now and later, and how do we do that? And that's kind of like this expert level that we need to work towards. So forever, yeah.
Yeah, and my second question sort of hints at what Zach was getting at. And I mean, I just think about my own teaching, and when I implement something new or teach a new class for the first time, it's really the third time through that I actually feel like I know what I'm doing, right? And so I think that's sort of what we are hearing. But I mean, I guess I would love for you to give us a perspective from the teacher's perspective of like, you know, we ask a lot of our elementary school teachers, right? And if you could talk from their perspective about like, hey, doing this implementation is going to take them X number of years, so let's be kind to them and not give them other massive things they need to do while they're focusing on this. Like, could you just give us a little perspective from our teachers of like, what can they actually do while we're asking them to do this massive thing with the math program?
Good question. You want
That's
to
a
take
really
that one,
big
or-
question.
That's a huge question, and one that is close to my heart, having just left the classroom. So I feel like in this role, it's great to have a classroom teacher mindset, because I feel like I have a read on how much the elementary teachers are working. So to answer your question, I mean, it's a struggle to answer it, because, yeah.
There's like
it's-
this, I like this idea of like, let's not put too much more on, because we want to focus on math, and we love this focus on math, of course. But at the same time, our colleagues are always wanting to do what's best for their students. So I think it's kind of going to be a case-by-case scenario, whether.
But
I don't know.
they have so many things they have to focus on. They have so many subjects that they're
Yeah.
teaching. And there's always something new.
Mhm.
So even if math isn't new for 5 more years or 7 more years,
Mhm.
which is 7 years ago we adopted
Mhm.
our last math program.
Right.
There's always something new. So we really do need to be looking for ways to support teachers. And I think the coaching is one way to do that.
Thinking about structures that support being able to have this collaboration and keep it going is important. I think
Yeah.
teamwork makes the dream work, so as much as we can
And-
think
and-
about that.
And the two great questions from Kevin and Zach, and our principal, I want to acknowledge that our principals are here in support, Principals Allen, Hutton, and Materis, and feel free if there's anything that you'd like to address, you're welcome to. But I think, you know, having ongoing, embedded, regular professional development is a great way to support our elementary educators. And it, you know, rather than waiting for a PD day that is happening months from now, they have that ongoing support and those opportunities to collaborate. And you know, it's when they're together that they share best practice and they have opportunities to lighten the load. Yeah.
I like the way you framed that before about moving from survival mode into thriving mode. And I think that's a really important way to support that move. Whether that embedded PT time is related to math as it is now because of a new curriculum, or related to any other new curriculums that come up, or even just moving forward to encourage that shared practice, that time to discuss best practices and work together and lighten that load, as it were, makes things always stronger and always better, for sure. Other comments, feedback?
Oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
Julie.
Oh,
Lisa.
Julie?
Oh, I just had it. So I have a 2nd grader and a 5th grader. Seems like it's going great. I thought it was really helpful to have the teachers explain a little bit more about the curriculum to parents during I think it was the open house where they spent some time on it. So I was just wondering how, like what the response has been from parents, and then also whether the curriculum changes how teachers support parents in supporting their kids, or how parents interact with their kids on, helping them with math.
Sure. You want to take that, or?
One of the things that kind of comes in my mind is, well, so parent outreach kind of starts every unit with a letter that goes home kind of explaining the unit and showing some kind of the models to expect. I do think that as we work with educators, that depending on classes and teachers, there might be less homework coming home because your students are working so hard in the classroom. And so we may be asking less of parents than before. I don't know. I don't know where
But I
you
still think there's the interest from parents to know, how can I help
Right.
my child at home? So the parent letters that come with the program help with that a little bit. We have on our agenda to talk about a parent night in the spring. We've had other conversations about how to support parents at home, and there are online resources from the Bridges website that can do that. It's definitely a conversation. One of our conversations, the current one we're having, is about the assessments and how can we communicate how the students are doing in class to the parents at home. So it's a big, important topic for sure.
Yeah, I think in some ways having less homework come home is, welcome, because there's a lot going on. But in other ways, it's kind of the only way that you get to see what
Yeah.
your children are doing. And my kids are not super forthcoming about what they're doing in math on a regular basis. So, but it's definitely harder to support them if you don't really understand, like, the, why they may be doing, particularly having like one kid who's going to go through more of the Bridges curriculum than the other, why things might be different than they are. Is that because of the new curriculum, or is it, particularly right now, we have one kid who spent more of those kind of like third, probably like second and third in the at-home COVID environment. So there's differences in the ways that your kids are learning because of that. So I think it might be helpful to think about how to get parents to kind of understand a little bit more about what's happening in the classroom.
We'll keep that on our agenda. Thanks. Gianna?
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Yeah, echo everybody else. Thank you all for doing the presentation and just all of the effort that goes behind it. I'm an elementary school counselor, so I've had to observe during math lessons or cover during math lessons, and I don't have a math brain, so I truly appreciate just, everything that y'all do, from paraeducators, coaches, and principals. So thank you for that. I also, as a school counselor, I've seen math programs come and go, and so is there any way to say, and I think you alluded to it, but I just, like, all this time and energy and effort and money and human resources and everything is going into Bridges, and is there a way to, like, not guarantee, but I feel like I don't want to be here in 3 years and then there's another, flavor of the month kind of thing. And I feel like, I've seen that happen, and I've seen the wear and tear on teachers, and again, paraeducators, that are implementing. So, I'm not asking you to guarantee, but like, it sounds like maybe there's like a longevity for this program.
I think there is. I think 7 years ago, now, wow, that went by fast. There was a fairly large committee, and we did a pretty extensive pilot. And when we pick a text and a new curriculum, we have to be able to know that everybody will be comfortable teaching it, right? So there were definitely kind of two different camps on which way we should go, more kind of Bridges and investigatory, or kind of more toward the traditional model. And we ended up picking a book somewhere in between the two, knowing that within 5, 6, 7 years we would be looking again as we built math confidence in our educators, and that's exactly what we did. But I think that this program's got a lot of longevity to it. It's been around for quite a while, actually, but I feel like it's a program that will stand the test of time.
Yeah,
Unless
I think
the-
the research goes back to the 80s.
Yeah, unless the standards change, but they will.
No.
Well, just with technology, and now we got the
Yeah.
vision of the graduate. Y'all have to like adapt, like every,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily because y'all are making these decisions.
Yeah.
we've got a superintendent and administration and a school committee, and like sometimes you don't have a choice. So I'm just glad to hear that, maybe you won't have to make another choice for another 7 or 10 years.
Well, I think it's good best practice to kind of reflect every 5-ish years, and that kind of curriculum review should happen whether or not you're looking to embrace a new program or not. But I would hope that we weren't in 5-ish years, because we're really investing so much time. We really feel like this is a move in the best direction. And so at that point, you could reflect and say, how are our students reacting to this program still? How could we change our structures? But at the same time, we're in such a reflective district that we are constantly having those conversations. I think your job is to support, think about how to support these human resources and structures that will keep that alignment and keep that support in place. And we'd really appreciate that for sure.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, kind of following along on that topic of reflecting and moving forward, I know that our middle school is getting ready to begin the process, or our middle schools are getting ready to begin the process of looking at curriculum review. So I'm wondering if you can speak to, I know our 5th grade is kind of in that bumpy space right now. What do you see as that transition for them moving from this year of Bridges to next year to the 7th grade, et cetera, as programs are kind of shifting and changing?
Well, I do know I've spent a whole day with our middle school curriculum coordinator over the summer, and we kind of talked about the process and best practice, and thinking about best practice in math, not only just in deciding a curriculum program, and where education is going and things like that. So I think we're going to continue to have conversations to make sure our visions are aligned and can kind of ease that transition. I think our students, I'm hopeful, and maybe it might take a year, are going to be entering middle school kind of with mindsets to take on anything. And so I think no matter what the program is, it can't be Bridges because they don't have a 6 through 8 curriculum. I think that they're going to have skills that will last them a lifetime and help them adapt. And I also think the curriculum that they probably will choose will have honor some of that thinking as well. I can't see it not.
Thank you. Mary?
Just a couple of things. I was an instructional coach for a long time, and I really want to, appeal to the committee, but also to the community, that these positions are really important. And I really appreciate that you have outlined your impact, because I never really had the chance to do that, and my position was cut in my district. So those are some things to think about when we enter budget season, because you are not necessarily in direct service to students all the time, even though you are. But do you know what I'm saying? Yes. So when you are looking, and now that I've been on this side of the table, I'm like, okay, these are really hard decisions. But the impact for student learning is tremendous with positions like instructional coaches, and I feel very strongly about that. And I think about, honestly, even the logistics of distributing the materials. I want to acknowledge the potential tens, hundreds of hours, maybe 100 hours that it would take for you to literally unbox and distribute to buildings across the district, and into classrooms, down hallways. You were probably dirty, and even that, when you take away the actual professional development that you are offering to support teachers, that's a tremendous impact on student learning. But even the logistical part of getting teachers what they need to do their jobs effectively is really tremendous. The other thing I wanted to mention, we've been talking a lot of embedded PD, and I still am a curriculum person, and yes, I agree that that is a very effective model, but I want to acknowledge the principals, because that is a really challenging model, particularly in a climate where we do not have a lot of substitute teachers. We have staffing shortages, and that poses some challenges in terms of, well, what are the kids doing when we don't have necessarily highly qualified folks in place to work with our kids while our teachers are receiving their PD, and that's a trade-off. And I want to acknowledge that. I'm assuming you're on board with this, but I don't know if anybody has any comments about embedded PD, because that's a challenging model. That's a good one, but it's challenging. No. You don't have to say anything, just.
They love it.
I'm just throwing a few
They
things
love it.
out there.
I think it's definitely been challenging, but we are really lucky for to have their support for sure, because there's a lot of last minute morning shuffling going on, and we know it's hard.
And the teachers are making plans for those hours. And I think being a teacher is one of those jobs where it's way harder to be out than to come when you're not feeling good. And then the pandemic just changed that. But you
Yep.
know what I'm saying? And then the last thing, I was just curious, Sue, in terms of the question that Kevin asked earlier about, I think it was Kevin, putting too much on teachers. And there still is, we have to move forward. So as much as we might want to focus on math, things are going well, we constantly have to be reflective about all of our content areas. And I didn't know if we have formalized like a long-range plan for a curriculum renewal cycle, or looking at our standards that have been more recently updated by DESE, and taking a look at some that are in the process. And do we have that? This could be a potential curriculum subtopic. And what does that look like in Long Meadow?
Yeah, so we don't have a cycle that says every 3 years we're going to look at, ELA, then math and science and social studies. It's been kind of more, the ELA and math had update standards, so we looked at it then. And we talked about a calendar of kind of like a cycle like that, and it didn't feel like it fit that well, because we were looking at curriculum that didn't need to be reviewed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you said, there's a constant reflection on what teachers are doing among them. They're constantly changing and updating what they do in the classroom, which sometimes leads to, dysregulation and like, so I appreciate the coaches saying about talking about the alignment piece, but I'm particularly always concerned about what we're putting on teachers' plates and how much becomes too much. And so we're all really mindful of that and working hard to make sure that teachers can implement math and don't have to worry about getting to stage 4 of the implementation this year, right?
Yeah.
Deeper dives that we're, and we'll see improvements, and we already are. So I'm mindful of it and working hard to make sure that we're not putting too much on. I appreciate you talking about just even getting the supplies unpacked, because sometimes if a teacher can just, if you can find me, 30 boxes of paper clips, you'll save me 25 minutes, and I'll appreciate that. So those kinds of things seem silly and small, and our lit coaches do it all the time too. They find literature for classrooms who are studying a certain concept, or they need, more certain levels, and so even those things that seem minimal are a huge help to a classroom teacher from all angles.
I am thinking another layer of that is that budget perspective, though, that if we are thinking about curriculum renewal, it's expensive, and those grants do come up, but that could be something that, even if we had to sort of make some educated guesses about what might be, it could potentially, we'd be in phase 3 of the implementation of math, and we could then be in phase 1 of the implementation of whatever other, you know what I'm saying? So it's just something to think about. And the last thing, I do also have a 5th grader who is at center school, and I obviously knew that this was happening, so I'm like, how's math? And she said, it's interesting. I shared this with the subcommittee. She said something like, it's not so much about finding the answer, it's about thinking about how to find the answer. And I said that at the subcommittee, and Marty was like, but anyways, it was, she...
I wish she
She's
had her
always
quote for our
very
slideshow.
skeptical.
That's what I said when she's running out, yeah.
So, thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Further thoughts?
Well, we were going to ask you to come back and teach a math lesson at some point to us when we needed a break from all the hard work that school committee does. But just so they can experience kind of the way that kids are puzzling through their math lesson, maybe a number corner lesson or something like that. So but we'll let you have a break for few months.
Sounds good.
All
I
right.
do love that. I think that would be great. I remember my kids are in high school now, 10th and 11th grade, but we were in elementary school roughly around when the last curriculum, and we did have some parent nights, and there were also some videos that were able to be sent home of teachers demonstrating, like, here is how your child is learning this today. And we were like, oh, all right, this makes so much more sense now. I see how they're getting there. It was nice to see that process unfold. So I feel like this would be a great forum to do that, and then be able to push that out to the community so that other parents are able to see sort of how that process comes
Sure.
together, and what the kids are experiencing would be, I'm sure, welcomed by lots in the community. So
Sounds
appreciate
great.
that.
I'm excited about that. I was also thinking, for the math people, if you walk into an elementary classroom, typically you might see a lot of reading and writing all over the walls, and now math is really taking up some real estate.
We know it's on our
And it's
learning
a
wall.
beautiful thing. There's, of course, a lot of other stuff too, but it's pretty cool that we're really kind of becoming math teachers.
Last thoughts from the committee, Jen? I think I saw your hand up.
I'm just looking at Principal Hutton, and I'm thinking, I know we're talking about Long Meadow Public Schools, math and curriculum, but I just need to tell the story because it's about math. It's about sharing the love for math and inspiring and motivating. So Paige Silva from your school, Principal Hutton, reached out, and they had some beautiful leftover math manipulatives and materials, and so Principal Hutton and Paige reached out to me at my school, and we were able to pick up boxes and boxes of beautiful materials, and the smiles on our kids' faces and the smiles on the teachers' faces. So Long Meadow, you're doing it. You're spreading the love for math in Long Meadow, but thank you again, Principal Hutton, just for sharing that love. We appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come in and share with us. This was wonderful to hear the updates, and thank you for being here for support back there for our administrators, and we look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Thank you very
Can't
much.
wait. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Things are going well.
Awesome job.
All right, we are going to move forward to administrative reports. Superintendent, I'll turn it over to you.
Just no written report, just a couple of quick things. I'll echo what Kevin said earlier. Congrats to our girls field hockey team and Coach Ann Simon in her 42nd year, getting her first state title, storybook ending to an amazing career. She's a great coach, great educator. It's one of the most special days that I've ever spent watching high school sports in my long career. So it was remarkable. Alums that were in their 50s came out to see Ann in her state final. So it was incredible. We thought about inviting her to tonight's meeting with a couple of her captains, but they have their banquet tonight. So maybe we can do that at some future date. And also wanted to let the committee know we have been in touch with the JCC. As you know, they experienced a fire last weekend at the Dickinson Street facility, and they run some after-school programming where Long Meadow Public School students are bused to the JCC facility. We've talked about seeing if we could arrange to have that after-school programming run out of our cafeterias while that facility is under repair. So Mr. Maz and I are working with JCC administrators on that. And if there's something that needs to come before the committee, we'll be sure to do that. And then happy Thanksgiving to everybody. That's it.
Thank you.
All right.
Wonderful. All right, Assistant Superintendent reports. Nothing to think. Good, all right. School Committee Chair report. First up, just to say that we appreciated it as a committee, the opportunity to sit down last night at a meeting with the Select Board and the Finance Committee to discuss the FY24 budget. It was a really good overview of sort of the current state of things and process and where we are headed as a town. That is available to watch if anyone has not seen it on the LCTV website and YouTube page, so if anyone is looking to find that. Also, congratulations to the Long Meadow High School musicians who qualified for the 2023 Western Mass District Festival coming up later this spring. I will not reiterate, but another note of thanks and congratulations to our field hockey. That was awesome. And lastly, kudos to both Mr. Williams here at the high school and Wolf Swamp Elementary for the thousands and thousands of pounds of food that they have collected to be donated to local food pantries. So amazing work, and really proud of all of our students and families and faculty for participating in those fund drives. And otherwise, wishing everyone a happy and healthy and safe holiday weekend. All right, that is all. Our student is not here today, so no student report. Other reports, LPVEC, Mary.
I do have a report. We had our annual budget audit with an outside company, and we received the highest commendation, so that was good. And then I took some notes on my phone, so I'm just going to open them up. I talk about buses a lot. I'm just fascinated by the cost of buses. But I have big news. So I know we received an email about this, but I'm just gonna. I took like detailed notes. I just want to share a couple of items. We received a grant for 25 new electric buses, which is almost $10 million in free busing. And the cool thing about this is because they become assets of the collaborative. An electric bus costs $350,000 to $400,000. That's wild. So the original buses, remember last year I talked about buses, those were $96,000. So you can see how much more expensive the electric buses are. But we received this tremendous grant. 5 districts received the grant in the state of Massachusetts, and LPVEC was one of them. And we have also applied and are waiting to hear back about an additional $2 million grant. So it's just a pretty exciting time. That's a lot of work that goes into writing these grants, and it's good for us fiscally, but it's also good for the environment. So just wanted to share that. Also, one more thing. I did go to the open house tonight. I was a few minutes late to our meeting, but they had an open house. And it was great. This open house is not for prospective students, it's for current students. And so kids were there with their families, showing their families their shops, and it was just very celebratory. And I love seeing kids in action and walking around these shops that are so beautiful. And it was just a nice experience to be there. The meetings that I've had with everyone have been remote, so it's also, to see these people in person, you're like, hi, you're taller than I thought. Or no. But it was a nice experience. And that's it. Our next meeting, I feel like, is, in the middle of December, the 14th of December. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for heading over to that tonight. That's awesome. Appreciate the report. Yeah, Jenna.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I probably should know this. I'm embarrassed that I don't. When you say the is there like an LPVEC school building?
Yeah,
Where
CTEC.
It's not like part of, like, our kids go to some, like.
No, there's an actual school, and if you would like, you can go on a tour.
Yeah, that's
it's-
awesome.
And they have full shops where, there are cars that are being worked on, or there is a salon where there's actual, it looks like a place that you would go to get your hair done,
Yeah.
and they have a child care center, they have a restaurant. I saw the kitchen. And
Do they have like a principal of the building?
Yes, they do. His name is Don Jarvis, and he took me on the tour tonight.
Oh,
So-
we get the acknowledgements from him.
Yes, yeah.
That's
yeah.
so cool. I
And the
don't know, I
teachers
just thought
are
they went to
there,
like
and yeah,
other
yeah.
tech schools.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So our kids, when they go
They're bused
from the high school,
here.
they go to
Yeah.
this building.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
It's in West Springfield.
Yep.
And we can tour. We should take a
Yeah.
field trip, Chairwoman.
We could go to lunch there sometime.
Oh, that's
You
right.
know,
That would be
they
even
actually
better.
have a student-led, the 9th and 10th graders do all the prep work. There are, they serve the food, and the 11th and 12th graders make the food. It's
fully
remarkable.
functioning
Yeah.
restaurant.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you,
For
Mary.
what it's worth, I know the school committee is interested in hearing student reports from each of the schools. I believe the high school intends, with their time in front of the school committee, to have some high school interns along with some students from Career Tech, just
Awesome.
to show sort of learning off campus.
Yeah.
I think that's the theme, so.
Very
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, energy and sustainability. Ken?
No report.
No report. SEAL, Gianna.
Yay, SEAL. So Special Education Alliance of Long Meadow continues with their excellent Zoom meetings, and the content is always great and valuable. Their next meeting is December 14th, which is I forgot to write down which day of the week that is, but Kevin, you're on it. I see you out of the corner of my eye.
Wednesday.
Wednesday's December 14th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. You can check out sealma.org. The next meeting is on bullying, and there'll be a speaker from the Federation to talk about, what parents might need to know, parents and guardians and families, what students might need to know. But I just want to make a special kind of comment regarding SEAL, because I know later in this meeting, superintendent's going to be talking about, changes, proposed changes to our, our special education department and kind of the pupil services. I believe that SEAL plays a huge role, again, in advocating and sharing resources and connecting students who have, parents with students who have special abilities. I think it's going to be super important moving forward that SEAL has an even bigger role. I'm going to ask Chairwoman maybe in January if we can have them come and visit. I think raising awareness for SEAL and what they do, and just the connectivity with all of the questions and everything that's going to be happening and some changes coming down the pike. I just think that SEAL needs to be, we need to raise more awareness for SEAL, and I'll do my part to do that, but I will work with others in getting them in front of the committee, and also ways that we can just kind of make it more accessible. And it's accessible to everybody, but I just want to make sure that we're letting people know that it is out there and that it is accessible, because there's going to be a lot of questions, there's going to be a lot of changes, and I just want people to take advantage of that and collaborate with SEAL. So, thank you.
All right, wonderful, thank you. I look forward to setting that up. All right, subcommittee reports. We're moving on. Our finance subcommittee has no report. Policy subcommittee does. Who is our policy sub-chair? Is that you?
I am, but Superintendent, you
Sure,
want to?
yeah. Happy to take it. This is quick. You have two policies that were reported on a policy sub that have been posted for public review, so this is considered a first reading. We keep them up on the website for a period of time, and we can notify families that these policies are out there, and so it'll come up to the committee at a future meeting for a final discussion and vote. The policies relate to public gifts to the school and a meal charging policy. Public gifts to the school would require that all gifts that are recommended by the superintendent would be reviewed and accepted by the school committee. That lines our policy up more tightly with Mass General Law. And then there's also a meal charging policy that Mr. Mazza explained to the policy sub if you need some information on that.
I have a question before I open up to further questions. I'm just wondering, for a point of clarity, where it lists the charges and what happens if a student is over that account cap. It reads for all of them, once a student reaches the maximum meal charge, no a la carte items will be sold to the child, and all transactions may become a cash basis transaction. That would not include lunches, correct? They would still be given lunch, no matter what. They just wouldn't be able to purchase a la carte items?
This year, they would get a free lunch.
Correct.
Yes.
But moving forward?
Yes. In future years, yes, they would continue to get a lunch,
Okay.
but we may restrict any other purchases if they don't have the cash on hand.
Okay, but there would be no restriction to getting lunch, even if an account was in arrears?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to double check the reading. I thought that was where it was headed,
Yeah.
but wanted to be sure I was understanding that. Any other questions, comments, or points of clarification from the policies?
I think these are good changes.
All right. Good deal. Anything else to do there? We're waiting until next round will be first meeting in January.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Those have to be up for 30 days.
All right, wonderful. Curriculum sub, Mary.
Yes, we met on Friday afternoon, and we had a little preview of our Bridges math program, so we sort of had this pre-update before tonight's meeting. And we also spent some time talking about the NESDEC educational program review, and you have a really big packet. So we, on the curriculum subcommittee, are still diving in. I'm speaking on behalf of me, but I really think
You're
that
still diving
probably
into it.
other people are
Yeah.
still diving into this too. And we had a really robust discussion about some of the findings, and Marty had identified a few areas where we can make some meaningful, tangible change, because this is a lot of broad recommendations that would be difficult to guide. We wouldn't ever accomplish it unless we sort of focus where we want to spend our time. And Marty, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more about this, but I did want to say before I turn it over, I'm just very appreciative that we took the time to have an independent agency provide us with some unbiased feedback. And I, in my time on this committee, have really appreciated that when we are interested in making a change or digging in somewhere, we have consistently done that. The research is the foundation for, and the impetus for, or maybe not the impetus, but the foundation for any recommendation that we make. So I think this is a really important part of the process of positive change, and so I was just reflecting about that since our meeting on Friday.
Yeah, so thank you. Well said. It's an extensive review. It was conducted by the New England School Development Council. Essentially, it was some of the essential questions were related to the accessibility of classes to all individuals, the extent to which we are ensuring rigor, and doing it in a way where kids can pursue a personalized pathway to graduation. And so the report came back to us in early November, and you'll see that the way the consultant set it up is he offered a series of options. There's actually dozens of options, and as Mary said, you wouldn't want to, nor could you possibly implement all the options. It really is for us to, as sort of practitioners working with the school committee, to identify sort of the high leverage options that we think can address our goals. I'll tell you some of the things that are jumping out at us right now. One, and it was good to hold up a mirror in the way that Mary described. I think, it gives us that outside set of eyes, so it's always helpful. But the things that are sort of jumping out are I call it the 8 to 9 handoff, ensuring that we've got a clear process in place for families and students to understand how recommendations are made for rising ninth graders. So that's one. The second thing is the consultant made some really good points about the readability of our program of studies. He recommended that we reduce the friction, is the way he said it. That it's a thoughtful document. It's very dense, but there might be ways to make it more user-friendly and do it in such a way that people see these as genuine opportunities that promote inclusion and accessibility. So that was another conclusion. Disproportionality is something that we want to continue to study, is looking at, and we've already started the data breakdown on that, is looking at the percentage of students at various course levels who are identified as having learning disability, percentage of students who are in underrepresented groups, percentage of males versus females. We want to get a really good bird's eye view of the breakdown and the demographics of classes within the high school as a jumping off point to, again, drive home and pursue our goal of inclusion and equity. And then I think it also, the final thing is, I think it also underscores our commitment to UDL, that if we are designing lessons and units universally, that it ultimately is going to promote access and inclusion for all students. So those are our initial takeaways. I will say that the first, maybe the second thing I described regarding the program of studies, we call it the Educational Opportunities Book. That's an ambitious undertaking. That's nothing that can happen in the matter of weeks or months even. It's a very extensive process to take that book and put it together in a way that is accessible for parents and students and staff. So those are some of the high-level takeaways. This can be, the last thing I'd say is that we also have our accreditation team from NEASC is visiting in early December. They'll want to sit down with the school committee, so it's another outside set of eyes that can kind of guide our work and our commitment to that vision of the graduate going forward. So you should have marked on your calendars unfortunately, it's a Sunday afternoon Zoom meeting with the visiting committee from the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. Recognize it's a challenging time, but if you can make it, I think it would be helpful to you, and I know it would be helpful to the reaccreditation process. So.
Nicole, did you say December 4th?
December 4th. I have it on my calendar from 5 to 8. Is that correct still? I might have made up that ending time.
Yeah, I think it'd be, I don't think it'd be that
Made up
long.
that ending time.
Yeah.
Okay. It might have been just my calendar filling in how long it thought it would go. Starts at 5 p.m. on December 4th.
Yeah.
Correct. All right, thank
Yeah.
you. Can I ask, is this a report available to the community anywhere? And where would it
Not
be
yet.
found?
We will make it available. I'd like to review it with the department chairs, give Tom an opportunity to review it with the department chairs,
Yeah.
and then we can make it available, for sure. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Questions, follow-up, thoughts, et cetera? All right, moving forward, we have no evaluation subcommittee report. Ongoing business, there is none, and so we move forward to new business. We have a preliminary overnight field trip request from the high school.
For your consideration, a request to plan an overnight field trip. Assistant Principal Jawick is interested in bringing a group of students to the Mass Association of Student Councils State Conference. And if you're looking to get a flavor for the work of the Mass Association of Student Councils, you can take a peek at one of their old programs going back several years. But kudos to Mrs. Drawick for hoping to kind of get our student leaders into these state-level organizations. And so there is a recommended motion, I believe, to allow us to proceed with planning for that overnight field trip. At a future date, we would come back to you with the final details for your final approval of that overnight field trip. So it's a cool organization, and I'm excited that our kids will have the opportunity to interact with that Mass Association of Student Councils.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Someone who just went to a different MASC conference.
Yes, different,
Have
yeah.
all good
Yeah.
things to say,
Yeah.
so it sounds wonderful for them. Okay.
In the same location.
Yeah, that's right, good point. I did not catch that, you were right. Nice spot. All right, we have a recommended motion for that.
Move that the school committee approve the preliminary request to secure prices and make arrangements for students from Long Meadow High School to travel to Hyannis for the Mass Association of Student Councils Annual Conference on March 8th, 2023 through March 10th, 2023.
Wonderful, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, oh, Jenna?
I'm not sure, Nicole. So, because I know that my child would be attending this.
Yeah.
So, this is just to get information about pricing, like,
Yeah.
because I also voted for the California trip, so I can vote on this. It doesn't,
I
it's
don't
not
see
like
why not.
she's
Yeah.
benefiting from,
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think there's any conflict.
Okay, I don't know why this time it just struck me. I was like, I should ask. Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. You're back just in time. We have a motion in front of us related to the overnight field trip and approving the preliminary request to secure pricing. I'm going to start on this side, and we'll work our way to you to give you a moment. And without further questions, yes? Okay. We'll move to a roll call vote. Julie?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Zach? Yes. And yes for me as well. All right, wonderful, thank you. We also have a building use request.
Good, thank you, and good evening. For your consideration is a request from the Center School PTO for use of the center cafeteria on Saturday, December 10th from 8 a.m. to noon. There is a family event to decorate cookies, and hot chocolate and coffee will be served. Finance sub did not meet, and with the time-sensitive nature of the request, we brought it directly to school committee for approval. And because the estimated attendance of 200 people requires school committee approval anyways.
Gotcha. All right, any questions, comments, and/or motions?
I move that the school committee approve the building use request for the center school PTO to use center school cafeteria on Saturday, December 10th, 2022.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We will move to a vote. Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Julie? Or,
Yes.
Mary, sorry, now Julie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. All right, we are through the post portion and have a motion to head into executive session.
I move that the school committee meet in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to conduct a strategy session in preparation with collective bargaining with units F and H and bargaining with non-union personnel, interim director of special education, and Purpose 7, consideration of release of executive session minutes of previous meetings to reconvene into open session.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We'll note that this means we will reconvene into open session, so we will be back as soon as possible. Any further discussion? We'll move to a roll call vote. Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well.
So could I just for clarity then for our folks who are zooming in from home, to reiterate, going into executive session, coming back as soon as we can, but we'll have to.
Diane's going to put them in the waiting room.
Waiting
Put them in the
room.
waiting room. Yep.
Correct.
All right.
And then we will
Excellent.
re-invite you in if you are available when we
Okay.
return.
All right.
All right,
You're clear.
thank you.
What does the C stand for?
it all.
In the middle.
You guys are all set?
Thank you. 1 second.
So before
Need just a minute, Brian?
Sure. Just give me a thumbs up, Nicole.
Perfect, thank you. Welcome back to the November 22nd, 2022 school committee meeting. We have a new topic on pupil services reorganization, and we'll turn that over to you, Dr. O'Shea.
All right, thank you. I appreciate our guests' patience as we work through executive session. So tonight's discussion relates to the need to think through our leadership structure for special education across the district, and would make sense to kick us off by once again acknowledging Jean Fontaine, who our current Director of Pupil Services, who will be leaving the district at the end of this calendar year for another position. And Jean has been a tremendous asset to the family, staff, and students along Meadow Public Schools. I'm a great fan of Jean's, and will miss her tremendously, and so appreciative of all the service that she's given the district. She has left, as she leaves, we are a more inclusive district, and a district that is more supportive of some of our most challenged learners. So I want to personally thank Jean for that. And so tonight is an opportunity to make a recommendation to the school committee for a succession plan. And if you could just bear with me, and I'll pull up a slide deck here.
Marty, your computer says low battery.
Oh, thank you. No, excuse me, give me 1 second. You almost saved us.
I know. Okay. Oh.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right. So, as we're at this transitional spot, wanted to just sort of frame it in terms of the goals of what we're trying to achieve with this reorganization plan, with this succession plan. First is to sort of, number one on the slide deck here relates to sort of immediate needs and ensuring that we're being supportive of our special educators, of staff, and the students that have some very immediate and specialized needs. I'd say, it's kind of important to note that as we sort of continue to emerge from the challenges of the pandemic, that it's important that we continue to support families. I think the demands on our special educators are significant as they respond to the unique needs and challenges of students. And we've experienced, as most other communities have, some vacancies in the paraprofessional ranks among special educators, and even at the administrative level. And so we want to make sure that whatever we put in place kind of addresses those short-term immediate needs. And then as we go through the goals, kind of ensuring that we have an administrative structure that mirrors some of the significant investments that this committee and other committees have been supportive of in recent years, and I'll take us through that shortly. And then finally, I think anytime you're at one of these sort of crossroads or at these transitional points, it's an opportunity to reassess and make sure that our plans are in sync with our existing goals as articulated in our district improvement plan, and particularly in relation to the tiered systems of support. I apologize for the acronym up there, the MTSS acronym, but particularly in relation to the tiered systems of support we're trying to put in place to ensure that we're meeting the social emotional needs of students, the well-being of students, and their sense of belonging. So those are the three goals that I hope you'll see that this plan addresses. And so I wanted to put it together very succinctly for you this evening, and there's sort of three components of this. One is appointing an interim director of special education. Second is to request that the committee authorize the addition of another Unit A special education supervisor. These are non-administrative positions that we have working at the preschool level, at the high school level, and there is an existing position at the elementary level. This would be an additional Unit A special education supervisor position that we can talk about. And then finally, something I'm excited about and I hope is a boon to this community is a position that I would propose as a director of student and family support. So I'll back up. I'll start with number one. For anybody watching at home, in Massachusetts, school committees contract directly with directors of special education. It's one of the few positions that school committees contract directly with, and so that contract is based on the recommendation of a superintendent. So I'm super pleased tonight to bring you a recommendation for an interim director of special education, specifically Ms. Nicole Paris-Crowe. Nicole is currently the assistant principal at Williams Middle School and has been a successful special educator in Long Meadow. Actually started her career in special education as a paraprofessional, which I think gives her a very unique and helpful perspective on the challenges that sometimes our staff face and the supports that kids need. But Nicole was a special education teacher, taught in the LLD program at Center School and at Williams, and became assistant principal at Williams in 2017, and has just done an outstanding job. And the handful of folks that I had an opportunity to talk to about this appointment seemed very excited that this was going to be the recommendation tonight. So I'm very excited to bring that recommendation to the school committee tonight, and I furnished you with her resume, a job description, as well as a proposed contract. So we could stop there and address this component of the plan, or I could take you through the whole thing if that makes sense too.
Let's go through the whole thing and then we'll
Sure.
do
Yeah.
the motions at the end.
Okay. So the second piece of this, requesting that the committee authorize the addition of a Unit A special education supervisor. So as we're thinking about this position, this would be a K-8, K through 8 special education supervisor position. It would be K-8 to provide some support at the elementary level where the challenges are most acute and where we've seen vacancies up and down the organization, but it's also extended into grades 6, 7, and 8 because this position would provide some special education support in the absence of Nicole Paris-Crowe, should she be approved by the committee as your director of special education. So that would sort of backfill Nicole's departure from Williams, again, if that arrangement made sense to the committee. And then finally is the piece of this that I'm excited about is the potential to establish a director of student and family support. And just some background on this that I hope is helpful to, it's perhaps a reminder to the committee, but also helpful to the wider community. I start with this slide, and this actually comes from, for the most part, comes from the budget presentation that Mr. Mazza and I made to the committee back in January of '22. And we compiled a list of the positions that we have invested in since fiscal year 2017. And as I look at this list, I think it tells an important story. It tells a story that we've had to make investments in special education, but we've also had to make critical investments in the overall well-being of children. And I think that, when you look at what we hear from the community, when you look at what's articulated in our district improvement plan, I think you see that these positions address those social emotional needs, behavioral needs of students. And I'm really proud that we've been able to, with the encouragement and support of the school committee, I'm proud that we've been able to make these investments at the direct service sort of classroom level. And frankly, that's always my go-to as a superintendent, is to put our eggs in that classroom level basket to ensure that we're providing direct service supports to the students and families. And so I wouldn't propose this family and student support position had we not already made these recommendations at an earlier time. I think that this position has the potential to mirror and coordinate the positions that are listed on this slide. And additionally, I think that this position really helps us embed and commit to that tiered system of support, the MTSS framework that we've talked about many, many times around this table. We heard from our coaches, our math coaches today, around sort of the math supports, and those are critical academic supports to ensure that we have tiered services for kids academically. We also want to make sure that we're being attentive to the other side of that schoolhouse triangle, and that is the sort of the social, emotional, and behavioral side. And as I think about it, I think this position, if to give you some idea of how this fits into the strategic framework, because it's really important to me anyways that what we propose to you tonight kind of matches up with our strategic goals. And so when I nestle the responsibilities of this Director of Student and Family Support into that tiered system of supports, these are some of the activities that I would see this person coordinating and supporting families and staff with. At the top of the list is evidence-based SEL programming, but additionally helping schools and teachers establish these proactive approaches to behavior and student discipline. And as a side note, that you may have seen, so many of our committee members are educators by profession, you may have seen that the state just revised its some of the regulations relating to student discipline and suspension. And there's a clear expectation, it's a good thing, that we have proactive disciplinary measures in place, and that we're not resorting to suspensions in some shorthanded way. And so having a system of positive behavioral supports is going to be more critical going forward. But school climate, go back to the example from your last meeting where Sue had presented achievement data, and you remember so much of the data that she presented related to school climate. It was our challenge success survey, it was the vocal data, it was the YRBS data. So, being attentive to school climate, assessing school climate, improving school climate, and improving that sense of belonging that is so important to kids nowadays. They need to feel that sense of attachment to their school community. And then, again, I'm sort of at tier one still. The work we've done with wellness classes, the health programming, health services, guidance programming, all of these things have become increasingly important, and we've made the investments at the classroom level, and I think it makes sense at this point to make a corresponding investment with this director of student and family support. So just to bear with me a few more moments. This is a sort of a draft of some of the responsibilities that this individual would work towards. The general goal relating to systems and strategies and programming around promoting safe, positive, healthy, inclusive learning environments, social emotional learning, working with our director of special education on tiered mental health services, increasing, and again, this is a district goal, increasing our capacity around DEI, and really following up in pointed ways on that, on the CLE equity audit that was completed. We've got room to grow in terms of recruitment and hiring of educators of color. We have room to grow in terms of policy review. We've got room to grow in terms of collecting and amplifying student voice in data collection. So those are some of the responsibilities, and additionally, being really coordinated in our approach to health services, K-12 prevention programming, screenings. It's become a challenge. Right now, Jean does a lot of this work as a pupil services director, but just daily staffing of our nurses, ensuring, if we have vacancies, ensuring that we've got the right folks in place to provide those health services. Educational stabilization. There's some very dense regulations around supporting homeless students, ensuring that we've got appropriate points of contact for foster families, ELL families who are new to our district. We're seeing an increase. You'll recall that the committee was invested in an additional ELL teacher. We're seeing more students whose first language is not English that we need to support, military families. And then some other activities that this person would be involved with: bullying prevention and intervention. Some of our administrators went to a legal training the other day, and right at the top of the list was bullying plans and suspension, approaches to suspension. I see this position as kind of part of the safety lens that we're looking through. Employee wellness, I think there's some entry points there, and close community liaison and serving as our Title IX civil rights officer. So I think to me, there's a coherent set of responsibilities that mirror, again, just to underscore, that mirror some of the investments that we've made at the direct service level. So for your consideration, I know it's a lot to think through, but for your consideration is the appointment of Nicole Paris-Grow, the addition of the Unit A Special Education Supervisor position, and the opportunity to establish the Director of Student and Family Support. Thanks for your kind patience on that at a late hour. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, why don't we take these, I was going to have you go back to the last slide.
Okay,
you were just
sure,
on.
yeah.
Thank you. Why don't we take discussion one position at a time? Any questions, feedback, discussion, et cetera, related to the interim director of special education and/or the appointment of Nicole Paris-Grow, or recommended appointment of Nicole Paris-Grow? Yes, Gian.
My feedback is big picture, is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
So Superintendent, thank you so much. And thank you all, because I know you all had, a hand in this too. But I just want to say just thank you for doing this and planning it out this way. And I know, you spoke to other people, you got some feedback from other people. But as a school counselor, as an elementary school counselor, who works with significant needs, with students with significant needs and special abilities, also I do the social, emotional, behavioral, I do the, second step curriculum. And just so I see all pieces of this puzzle, and having sat on the school committee and having talked about the goals and just all the different things, all the different elements that you've put up there, I just want to say thank you, because I see this as just enhancing services, addressing the growing needs that we've all seen, whether it's general education or special education. I think this is great. I think with the family, student and family support position, because again, I'll talk about my district, but I know, there's different people that do like 4 different jobs at the district level that essentially Jean was doing. So I think, it's just a very wise decision to kind of let people focus and really hone in and continue on the special education side, the great work that Jean has established. And that, and I also just have to say to the special education, everybody that works in special education, I see it in my school, and it's just, we all know I'm a cheerleader for all educators, but special education educators right now, and I go into the classrooms and I support in the class, it's just, they're just remarkable. The kids are remarkable. The families are, so I just want to say thank you, because I think this is going to go a long way in just helping as many kids and families as possible.
Thank you.
Other thoughts? Can we just see Jamie too? I just want to
Oh,
make sure.
sure.
Other thoughts of a perhaps more global nature related to the reorganization here?
And I should have noted that Nicole Periscrow has joined us virtually, so I wanted to, I should have.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
And she's.
Nice to meet you. I'll see you again. Some of you see you again. And nice to meet some of you that I haven't met before.
I'll add in just to say that I also agree and appreciate the creation of this role of Director of Student Family Support. I think you use a phrase often about eyes on the child, and this puts that in focus. With this creation of this new position, it provides more support where students and families are especially needing it, with so many different, across so many different aspects: social, emotional, home support, connection to outside services, et cetera. So I think that's a position that is definitely needed and well situated. Zach?
Yeah, and if I can, I just applaud the leadership of the district for recognizing the evolving needs of the child and the family and the community in a post-COVID reality, and having the courage to sort of step up and undertake a potential reorganization that might meet some of those changing needs, and recognizing that reorganizations can be bumpy as you're transitioning to a new way of doing things in a new reality. I would just like to caution folks that are listening in that while we might directionally be heading in a strong towards a strong purpose, that doesn't mean it's not going to be without its hiccups along the way.
And it's worth noting that the proposal, it's not explicitly stated in any slide, it would transition us from a Director of Pupil Services, which is Jean's title, and it's a very encompassing title, to a Director of Special Education. So we think that will allow Nicole, if it is approved, for her to be sort of more specifically focused on the needs of special education teachers and families and students.
I know, and thank you for saying that, Zach, because I know I mentioned it before, but I'm just looking and I see that Diane Porfilio, who is one of the leaders of Special Education Alliance of Long Meadow, is also on, and I know that Megan, I know she's been on for a while, and I know that Megan Downey, another leader of SEAL, was on before, and when I said it before, I think, but Zach, you bring it up again, I think we need to, just really raise up, be aware that SEAL exists, because I think they'll be a great resource in helping with a lot of those, the families having a lot of questions, and, you know, there's anxiety and adjustment periods, and so thank you for saying that, and I just wanted to shout out to Diane, and I know Megan was on earlier.
Other questions, comments, or feedback related to these proposals or recommendations? All right, there are potential motions I will happily entertain.
I move on the recommendation of the superintendent that the school committee approve the offer to hire an interim director of special education and approve the employment contract for Nicole Paris-Crowe as presented and authorize the school committee chair to sign the contract.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? Just pause to say thank you to Nicole Paris-Crowe for the work that you've been doing in the district and for being willing to step into this interim position, and wish you the best with it. If it were to be.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, we will take this to a vote with no further questions. Yes, Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Almost did it again. Julie?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight as well.
My pleasure. Thank
Look
you.
forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All right, we have some other motions that can be made.
I move on the recommendation of the superintendent that the school committee authorize the creation of a new district-level position titled Director of Student and Family Support.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on this? Thank you to the administrative team for bringing this up, and we will move to a roll call vote. Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. All right, and we have one more.
I move on the recommendation of the superintendent that the school committee authorize the addition of a Unit A special education supervisor position.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? All right, we'll move to a roll call vote. Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. All right, seeing nothing further on our agenda, I will entertain one last motion.
I move that the school committee adjourn the November 22nd, 2022 school committee meeting.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
I almost said yes.
Yes, we're all getting a little tired of this speaking at this point. All right, any further questions, comments, or discussion on this? All right, we will move to a roll call vote. Zach?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely evening and a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, everybody.